Look, Democrats are in this fight. Republicans need their help. I think if Democrats cave and don't get anything for helping Republicans keep it open, open up the government, then I think the Democratic voters out there are going to be disgusted with their party. So this could last a while.
Now let's head to the US for a roundup of the latest, including Pete Hegseth's speech to military commanders this week. And he told them, and I quote here, "We have become the woke department." He also had a blunt way of saying stricter fitness standards needed to be introduced.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test.
Now, he was saying this to, indeed, 4-star generals and all sorts of high-ranking officers, and in a giant room and a huge assembly of military personnel. Elsewhere, the Senate has retired for the weekend after spending proposals were again rejected. The rejection means that the government shutdown will carry on into next week. So with me to discuss all the latest is Joe Walsh, former Republican congressman, now turned Democrat. Joe, welcome. Thanks for giving us your time.
Good to be with you.
Joe, just first up, what did you make of Pete Hegseth's comments? He also spoke about the beards are going to be out. I think he called them beardos are out. What did you make of his address of quite an incredible audience of generals and high-ranking officers?
Well, look, he's a goof, Pete Hegseth is, and he's utterly incompetent. But the more important story is what you just said. 800 of our top generals from around the world, Trump and Hegseth ordered them to all be in the same spot that morning outside of D.C. Now, what a crazy thing to do, a stupid thing to do, a national security risk. But I think it was a power play. And I think to understand why Trump demanded they all fly around the world to be there was with what Trump said to them. Mm-hmm. And let's be really clear. Trump told them there's going to be a war on our streets in America, a war that you all generals are going to participate in. I know a lot of people are making fun of all the stupid stuff that the culture war stuff that Hegseth said. But the important thing is what Trump said. Well, Trump was prepping these generals for orders to fire on American citizens. That's what this is all about.
Well, what are you basing this on, Joe? I mean, I can understand that these are worrying statements from the president to say, look, prepare for a war that you're involved in, and the war, he kept saying that this conflict is from within. But what evidence have we got that Donald Trump is remotely thinking of using his own troops against his own people?
It's so far beyond worrying. The American president telling our generals there's a war in America. The enemy is from within. The war's going to be on our streets and you're going to participate in it. Hello, that's a hell of a lot more frightening than just worrying. I would remind everybody listening to us that in Donald Trump's first term, he ordered the military to fire on American citizens protesting in Washington, D.C., but the military then, the generals and the Secretary of Defense said, no, sir, we can't do that. I'm not convinced those orders won't be followed this time around. Donald Trump is hell-bent on putting our military on our streets. We don't do that in America. That's unconstitutional, yet he's doing it. So I don't think this is just Trump talk. I think this is something America has to brace itself for.
Do you think that we would still see resistance from the US military if they were ordered to do what you describe? Are there generals that would actually turn around to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War now, as has been renamed? Do you think that there could be that resistance from the generals?
No, I don't know. And by the way, Secretary of War, the Department of War, that hasn't officially been changed. That's Trump can't change that on his own. Look, I don't know. We know this. Pete Hegseth will do whatever Trump tells him to do. We know that a number of generals have left and or are leaving, and Trump is trying to replace them with his loyalists. So the answer to your question, would those orders to fire on American citizens, would those orders be followed? I don't know. And I think a lot of Americans don't know. What we know is this: Trump wants the military on our streets. Now, I think a lot of people, and I believe he wants the military on our streets because he's trying to incite violence, because he's trying to really mess with the 2026 election. So, look, again, with Trump,
you're talking about the midterms.
Place America's never been before.
Just to make it clear, you're talking about the midterm elections for next year.
The midterm elections in 2026.
Okay. I want to focus, Joe, on the government shutdown. What might be confusing for some of us here in the UK who are not really up to speed with how government works in the US is we know that Trump has control of the House and he has control of the Senate. So how is the government shut down?
We have this funny thing in the Senate where it takes 60 votes, not a simple majority, to advance legislation. Republicans have 53 senators, so they need, it's called the filibuster, so they need 7 Democrats to overcome that filibuster. That's why Republicans who control the federal government need Democratic help to keep the government open. Democrats have said, well, if you want our help, this is what we're asking for. And Republicans have said no.
How much longer do you expect this stalemate to continue?
I think it could continue for a long time. Remember the last time Trump was president, 2019, we had a shutdown for 35 days. I think it could continue for a long time. I don't think Trump cares at all. I know Republicans care because right now the polling shows Republicans are getting blamed. Look, Democrats are in this fight. Republicans need their help. I think if Democrats cave and don't get anything for helping Republicans keep it open, open up the government, then I think the Democratic voters out there are going to be disgusted with their party. So this could last a while.
How are these shutdowns affecting everyday people? We know that in Washington, as you described, there is a lot going on politically speaking. There's a lot of power plays, a lot of waiting to see what the Democrat reaction is. But for the average American, what does this government shutdown mean?
To the average American, not much, because essential workers and essential government work continues. But essential workers like air traffic controllers, they must report to work, but they're not getting paid. So as in the last shutdown, eventually that's going to impact air travel because air traffic controllers are not getting paid. So pretty soon they may call in sick or not show up at work. So right now it's just like a lot of the museums, a lot of the tourist attractions the government runs, those are shut down. Essential work continues, but the longer this goes on, the more the American people will feel it.
And looking, because you mentioned it, Joe, those elections next year, the midterm elections, we've touched upon it briefly. The polls are not looking great for Donald Trump at the moment. His popularity continues to drop. Importantly, his popularity among specific issues is also dropping. His handling of the economy, even in some areas in handling of immigration, has been unpopular. What happens when Donald Trump loses either the House or the Senate? Because so far he's ruled by executive order. So he seems to have bypassed those two houses. Can he continue to do so if the next elections next year don't go his way?
No, and I need to say this, and I hope I don't sound like a crazy man because I'm not a crazy man. There are a lot of people who believe we won't have midterm elections next year. I need your audience to understand that. I mean, remember, we're talking about an American president, the only American president in American history who lost an election and refused to accept that result. And then he committed crimes trying to overthrow an American election. So I don't want to hear anybody tell me, oh, Joe, Trump won't try to stop the midterm elections from happening. Poppycock, we don't know. There's huge concern because, as you said, things aren't looking good for Republicans right now. And again, I think this is all part of Trump's plan with the military. Trump wants there to be violence and chaos on our streets. I think he really does want to mess with the elections. He's put election deniers in charge of our election security. So this is a really scary, scary time. If there are elections, as you say, Trump's numbers are terrible, but I'm a new Democrat. The Democratic Party's numbers, approval ratings are even worse. So we don't know for certain that Trump is going to win, that Republicans will win in the midterms. If the Democrats do win and take back the House, well, then by golly, the Democrats, the Congress will begin to investigate everything that Trump has done these last 9 months that a Republican-led Congress has just looked the other way on.